Peace and love to the guys and goddesses and all the high vibrating species on the planet. How we living out there, good people? Come on in. Welcome back. We are here with part 2. It's Ouroboros. The Ouroboros Cycle. Y'all ready? Peace and love to you. Salute. Academates, come on in. Come on in. Have a seat. Y'all already know the business. Y'all to me. Hope everybody doing good, man. Don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button, right? Because we finna go ahead and get this thing on the way. Because, you know, of course, we do not have numerology for this series at all. Check out the daily posts. Keep up with it. Whenever I get it posted, you know, we have those technical difficulties and stuff like that, right? So, you know, we're working with it. But anywho, so I hope you got what you need, because I do. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get this thing busting. Let's see what's up with part 2.
Cycle. Part 2.
What's that?
The Ouroboros Cycle.
Okay. The Ouroboros Cycle. Part 2.
In the last part, we looked at 9 children who had been abducted from a small Mexican village and turned into brain-dead weapons by the Foundation to be used against an army of reality benders.
So they say.
Whether or not that act was justified is irrelevant, as it was done, and the Foundation is likely very grateful that it was. In this part, instead of looking at the Foundation creating a godlike weapon, we'll be looking at them combating one. I've already covered this Broken God 001 proposal briefly in my video on the Church of the Broken God, and I highly recommend watching that video first to give you some background info on the church itself. The Broken God is a Maksur entity, a rather unique designation meaning broken, which is being used in place of neutralized. Think of it like a dormant volcano instead of an extinct one. It's still dangerous under certain conditions, but right now it's not a threat.
Yeah. If you get busted,
it is essentially a collection of specific anomalous objects that come together to form an entity that is greater than the sum of its parts, like Voltron. Unfortunately, unlike Voltron, when this entity came together in 1942 in Mexico, it resulted in a catastrophic change to Mexico's geography and one of the most widespread uses of amnestics to date.
Yeah, tell me about it.
The containment procedures note that if a similar event were to occur in modern times, it would be impossible to contain the spread of knowledge, resulting in a broken masquerade scenario, and eventually, an end of the world scenario. There is a partial list of SCPs that were used to make up this entity, and I went over several of them in my Church of the Broken God video, but most of them aren't really significant to this story. What is important, though, is that members of that church, or at least a branch of that church, went to efforts to gather together these SCPs for the specific purpose of creating this entity, the Broken God. When they did, the Broken God began to find and integrate whatever metal objects it could into its body, as well as begin seeking out other anomalous objects. Eventually, though, the Broken God was, well, broken once again, with many of the components taken back into Foundation custody, and the primary component left at the bottom of the Gulf of California under a strict watch. Let's find out what broke the Broken God, and all of the background info that led to that event in 1942.
Well, let's see, because I'm curious.
We're given a statement taken from a priest of the Church of the Broken God from 1945, who discusses the first time he saw the heart of the entity, presented by some other church members. This heart would be the core of the Broken God, the primary component that allowed it to be a god, and eventually the component that is left sitting at the bottom of the gulf. Priests within the church are responsible for blessing various artifacts related to the Broken God, and this priest had already done so on a number of other artifacts. When he first saw this heart, though, he was taken aback by the wrongness of it. It spoke to him telepathically, showing him how much pain it was in, how broken it was, and how much it desired to be whole again.
That's how they talk.
He then corrects himself, saying that the entity associated with this heart didn't desire to be whole, but rather It was being driven by some sort of impulse towards an unthinking end. This is in stark contrast to what the church normally thinks of their God, an entity of pure logic and thought, not impulses. The priest begged the others to take it to the beach of SCP-2217, where it could conceivably be destroyed, but they ignored him. The heart began to move of its own accord and consumed a nearby wrench, integrating it into its body. The others cheered that their God was unbroken, and the priest never saw them again after that. Next, we're given an excerpt from an interview with a member of the FBI's Unusual Incidents Unit, who describes an encounter she had with some members of the Horizon Initiative. The Horizon Initiative is a group formed by various sects of the main three Abrahamic religions to combat anomalous objects and groups they deem a threat, including the Church of the Broken God. The UIU had already handed over a few religious objects, and now the Horizon Initiative wanted them to hand over the objects they had collected connected to the Broken God. While the UIU agents were deliberating, a strange woman with iron chains for hair approached them and asked for a small metal box. The agent asked what the box did, and the woman replied that it would be easier to show than tell. The woman somehow induced a vision in the agent of the world falling away, and an image of two gears that were once meshed together and now broken apart. The vision continued, with the solar system appearing as essentially a machine, hurtling through an oily cosmos with the power of an infinitely unwinding spring. After the vision passed, the agent says that the box felt heavier than before, or perhaps more significant, and she handed it over to the woman despite the protests from her teammates or superior. We'll hear about this chain-haired woman again later. Another interview with a priest of the Broken God taken in 1945, this time an excommunicated one though. The interview concerns the heart of the entity, and the priest discusses how he first heard about it from a high-ranking agent of the church named Ezekiel. Ezekiel worked for Robert Bumaro, who had become the leader of the church, and Bumaro's agents could apparently speak with the Broken God. These agents were the first to begin augmenting their bodies with technology, many of them dying because of it. But Ezekiel was spared this fate.
I'm trying to tell y'all, man, when y'all try to don't do it, don't do it. I'm not even gonna say it. Y'all know what I'm finna say, but don't do it, reconsider.
As he was especially close to Bumaro. These agents would gather any potential artifacts they could find to see if they were meant to be a part of the Broken God, and ship them down to Mexico if they were. They had found a bunch of these artifacts, but were still missing the heart, the key component. Ezekiel was the one who came to Bumaro and told him that if they couldn't find a heart, perhaps they could build one of their own. This was basically heresy as far as most of the church was concerned, and so discussion of it was kept a secret. The priest admits that they followed through on this plan. They never found a heart, and instead they constructed one. He's not sure what exactly they went through to build it, but he has his speculations. There was a drought, the polio crisis hit an all-time high, and thousands died of natural causes, with him believing these events to be connected. He finishes by saying that that was not the heart of God, but instead something altogether different. The next file gives us our first actual look at the 001 entity, a description of some video footage taken by a local film crew that happened to be on site. A home has already been destroyed, primarily the garage, and there are metal fragments and strips of rubber leading down the street. Pieces of multiple automobiles are strewn across the street, and the trail leads to the entity itself, which is currently consuming and integrating a truck. The entity continues to consume any metal in the vicinity, and additionally, a section of the entity itself breaks away and begins to search for more sources of metal. As this sub-entity searches, it starts to alter its shape, eventually changing into a humanoid figure roughly 3 meters tall, or around 10 feet. It picks up a dead civilian and places them inside of its body, moving on to pick up a second civilian attempting to crawl away. It also places this civilian inside of itself, and continues to grab civilians in the vicinity, placing each of them inside of itself.
What the hell going on?
A growth is forming on the entity's back, and by the time it has grabbed 6 civilians, the growth is larger than the humanoid itself, and it ceases to walk. Its limbs recede into its body, and its ribs extend out, allowing it to scuttle up onto a nearby roof. Here it sits for 20 minutes until its exterior begins to crack and get torn away from inside, revealing a few humanoids. Each one seems to be infected with SCP-217, a virus that converts organic tissue into organic metal, known as God's Ichor by members of the Church of the Broken God. These humanoids exhibit physical characteristics of the 6 captured civilians, although one of them appears to be dead. One of them, a male with clockwork limbs, jumps from the roof and lands on its stomach, which seems to not harm it. It begins chasing after the 001 entity. The other humanoid, a female with chains growing out of its scalp, waves at the camera crew and then stops, jumping out of view of the camera. Well, that all sounds pretty horrible, and not exactly what I'd picture from the return of an omnipotent godlike entity of logic. There are elements here very familiar to the Church of the Broken God,
Right.
but as others have said, it's just wrong. The entity is growing though, insatiably consuming every piece of metal in sight to make itself larger, and showing no qualms about killing civilians and turning them into something else. This event occurred in November of 1942, so let's move on to a phone call between Robert Bumaro and one of his agents from December of 1942. The church has reined in the entity, keeping it in a warehouse and continually feeding it more metal, per Bumaro's instructions. The Foundation, meanwhile, has been trying to find the entity, the other anomalous objects, and any other members of the church. The church has a safe house containing 100 other objects, but Bumaro is certain that the Foundation doesn't know where it is, and even if they did, the world's focus right now is on the World War in Europe. The agent mentions that they are having trouble finding enough food for the entity, and it's become so ravenous that it's eating the warehouse it's contained in. They cannot reason with it, but Bumaro is convinced that someone who is devout enough can speak with their god and tell it the necessity for secrecy. Rather than angering Bumaro and admitting that they cannot, the agent assures him that they'll make it happen. As you know, they couldn't manage to keep it a secret for 2
Listen, that don't sound good, cause when, you know what I'm saying, when they do that, it's like they can't guarantee it, so they either gonna fail you, or somebody finna get tossed in order for them to make it happen. Those are the options I'm gonna throw out there. Y'all let me know what y'all think about it.
too long, and eventually the entity broke loose again, leading to its destruction. A Foundation commander discusses how his team was planning to ship out of Mexico to go to France, in order to keep some anomalous objects out of German hands, when the trains stopped running. There had been a number of refugees in the area who said that their entire town had been consumed by a machine, and the railway shut down due to some incident further north. Foundation personnel in the area were hauling some large objects out of Mexico, and so they were forced to wait it out. But they sent a small group north to check out the accident. 5 days passed before one of the men from the group returned, delirious, going on about a world eater, and how the rest of the group was dead. The group had come across the entity, and realizing that they would never be able to contain something like this, attempted to destroy it. Unsuccessfully, obviously. The commander himself saw the entity a while later, referring to it as a mountain of moving parts, blackening the sky as it chewed through everything in its path. He says that this went beyond anything they had been trained for, and that they knew this thing was going to kill them. It was just a matter of when. Foundation personnel in the area were kept in the dark, figuratively and literally, as the entity continued consuming and billowing out massive amounts of smoke that darkened the sky for weeks. They're told that they are here to fix the rails, but instead they simply sit and wait. A man comes into town with half of his face burned off, delirious. He talks about a machine the size of a mountain that speaks to you, convincing people to throw themselves into it. The people that do so are shredded instantly. The entity finally comes within sight of the Foundation personnel sitting there, as it moves across the countryside on millions of cogs, like an iron centipede. By this point, its body is large enough to extend upwards into the massive cloud of smoke, making its true size indiscernible. It devours mountains and entire towns whole, pulling them into a hellish furnace in its chest.
Well, damn, what the hell is this?
The people in the area can hear it screaming in their minds. Well, this is a pretty big problem for the Foundation, and one that clearly seems to be beyond their capabilities of destroying, let alone containing. And when the Foundation absolutely needs something dead, they know who to team up with. The Global Occult Coalition.
I know, right?
Or,
just
as it was
say,
known in
them
those
boys,
days,
that's all they
the
do is
Allied
kill stuff.
Occult Initiative.
That's all they
To
want to
this
do
day,
is kill
Foundation
stuff.
agents admit that
Unalive.
the GOC were the ones responsible for killing the entity. So this is a good example of the GOC doing right, as far as the Foundation is concerned. The AOI found an anomalous device on an island off the coast of Greece, and they had come to believe that it could be used in some way to slow the advance of the entity. The device apparently had some mind-altering effect associated with it, and so the agent discussing these events can't really remember much about it. Agents from the AOI contacted the Foundation and came to Mexico, with the Foundation eager for the assistance. The AOI then sent a single agent with the device towards the entity, which was still in the process of consuming everything in sight, including the ground. The clouds then part above the entity, and a massive mechanical construct appears overhead as it begins glowing blue. A bright beam of light erupts from the construct towards the entity, which reacts violently and begins reaching towards it. An explosion commences, and when the Foundation came in afterwards, they found the entity annihilated, the construct disappeared, and a massive chunk of Mexico destroyed, becoming what is known as the Gulf of California. The construct was later found in low Jupiter orbit and was classified as SCP-2399, although it was in a severe state of disrepair. The Foundation removed the heart from the remains of the entity, causing the rest of the parts on the bottom of the Gulf to collapse. They then utilized some experimental amnestics on widespread groups of populations, causing more than 2 million deaths in the following decade. Whoops. Remember that woman with the chains for hair and that small metal box she took from the FBI? Well, it turns out that she showed up on a small island off the coast of Greece a few months before the destruction of the entity. The AOI approached her, and she was willing to give them the metal box, but then she flipped out and subdued 2 officers before being restrained. She then demanded to be taken to Mexico so that she could take the artifact there. The AOI then looked into what was going on in Mexico and decided to ship a platoon there along with the woman. We'll hear from her again soon. So, the GOC had killed the guy, but the Foundation had to clean it up. They found countless small pieces of the entity strewn about, small gears and pulleys and pistons, each of them still moving on their own for some time. Some injuries were had by some agents who were being dumb around the machinery, but only one death, a local who they had sent into the bay to get some straps around the heart. They found him with his head crushed between two moving pieces, and it looked like he had shoved it in there himself.
Damn.
They had also found roughly 100 anomalous objects.
Look here, these unalivings is getting more and more brutal. You know what I'm saying? As we go through the SCPs, not just this one, but just SCPs in general. It's like it's getting crucial out here. Hey man, head on that swivel, watch out there now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but then it ain't like you're gonna, you know what I'm saying, well, they want you to remember it any damn way. You feel me? You know what I'm saying? You get took down through there and then they want you to forget all about it. Don't worry about it, bro. You got beat up by a bear, but don't worry about it. Or it wasn't a bear, you know what I'm saying? You got beat up by a Wolfman, and we don't want you to know it was Wolfman, so don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, man, that's a crucial part of your life, and now you got to go through regression. You know what I'm saying? To know that that's why you got a twitch, an extra twitch, or extra like phobia for certain animals that you didn't have a phobia for until you got attacked by one that wasn't supposed to be, so to speak. And you know what I'm saying? They instead of telling you or letting you remember about it, they just don't worry about that, homie. You good, bro. You don't need to know about that. That's cool. Like what? Seriously? Like seriously? That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this every time. Come on, man. Is there ever a time that we get to keep what we find? I mean, Lord Marshall say, you know what I'm saying? You know how the necros do it. They keep what to kill over there. You know what I'm saying? You keep what you kill, right? So why can't we keep what we find? You know what I'm saying? We knowledge we keep that, right? And now we ain't talking about you're pulling this stunt like this American paradigm, that stunt that y'all pulled. Some discovery doctrine. Now come on, bro, how you gonna discover something that somebody was already on? Now it started out as fraudulent. It started out as a lie. It's gonna always be a lie. So you know what I'm saying? SCP Foundation, y'all, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying? When you wipe somebody's memory, that's technically, man, that's you lying too. You lying. You still lying. You know what I mean? You making me forget is you lying. Prospectively. Cause I know some people out there be like, technically, nah, bro. I didn't want to do that purposely. You know what I'm saying? The rules are it's free will. It is free will out here. So if I choose to remember, I want to remember. And I choose to remember any anomalous thing that I see, any weird thing that I see, president or whatever doing some weird stuff, or politician or whoever, man, it don't matter. It don't matter. You know what I'm saying? If I see somebody doing some weird, I reserve the right to keep that in my memory bank. I mean, the Akasha Record's gonna keep it anyway, and eventually, well, some of us, not all of us, we'll be able to go through the records and look and see what all really actually took place here. Because sometimes that's how we get some of our information. Although we know that them lizard boys trying to get in, so that's why a lot of us aren't allowed to go in, because there's others trying to get in, and you know what I'm saying? They can't. They're gonna use you. They try to use you as a medium to get in. So those with like weak frequency and stuff like that, nah, it's a no-go for you. It will be a no-go for you until you strengthen your psychic field, and you know what I'm saying, become, like, I guess, so to speak, more aware, so to speak. But yeah,
objects connected to the Church of the Broken God, and joked that they might have to build a new site just to contain them all. An agent remarks that standing near those artifacts made you feel something, like serenity or relief, except for the heart. When they pulled it out, the locals complained about hearing voices, and none of them would dare approach it, no matter how much money they were offered. The Foundation agents felt iffy about it as well, but they eventually got it loaded onto a ship. The agent then notes that, unlike the rest of the church artifacts, which were unmarked, the heart had a tag on it, reading, property of the factory. If you've watched the rest of my SCP series, you've already heard about the factory, most notably from a 001 proposal I discussed in my SCP-4000 video. The long and the short of it, though, is that the factory is a lot like Dr. Wondertainment, a poorly understood and mysterious group of creators that make anomalous objects.
Well, ain't gotta be poorly misunderstood.
The difference with the factory, however, is that their creations tend to be darker or more dangerous. There isn't a whole lot known about the factory, but you can probably bet that they don't worship the broken god. What ended up happening then is that a group of members of the Church of the Broken God, led by Robert Bumaro, were hell-bent on rebuilding their god at all costs. They had dozens and dozens of small artifacts that they knew were legitimate pieces of the god. But what they didn't have, and what they really needed, was the heart. They don't know where the heart is. The Foundation doesn't know where the heart is. Probably no one knows where the heart actually is. And so Bumaro set out to make one instead. Perhaps that is ultimately what the church is meant to do, make a heart for their god. But the way that Bumaro went about doing so was, in the end, wrong.
Hey, should we be doing this anyway? I mean, well, I ain't gonna say we, cause I ain't got nothing to do with that. But yeah, is, you know what I'm saying? Should this be allowed? You know what I'm saying? Shouldn't we, the people, have something to say about this? Regulate this, you know what I'm saying? So they don't be doing stuff that they have no business doing. We do get, you know what I'm saying? That is a part of our job, right? As the people, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not asking the others. I'm asking the people. That's our job, right? Right. All right, so that, yeah, we got to speak on that, y'all. We can't just be letting them just do stuff, because we don't know what the hell they doing. We don't know what people be doing, man. So let's make sure we're speaking up when things ain't going like, you know what I'm talking about? Because they slick with it. I'm talking about slick with it. And will give you the business and slick you right in it. Have you know what I'm saying? Have you going right along with the okie doke. For real. Y'all better watch it. I'm trying to tell you, especially this year. Moving forward, you better watch it. I'm trying to tell you.
We don't know exactly what the factory went through to make this false heart. But remember that priest earlier that implied that thousands died due to supposed natural causes right around the time they recovered the heart? The factory generally doesn't shy away from dealing with entities we'd refer to as demonic, and it's likely some horrible ritual was used to create this false heart. The false heart allowed the entity to animate, consume metal, and connect to the legitimate artifacts, but it was driven mad by its own creation, and ultimately begged to be killed.
See, you see that? Artificial, it's not real love, man. It's not real. It's not the spark. That ain't the soul, bro. That ain't right. And it knew it. See, even the intelligence, that's just the power, that's just the greatness of the universe. You know what I'm saying? Great mother. That's just like anything that's just supposed to be what it is. That's what comes about. So it picks up a little bit of the energy to be able to just figure out certain things. But yeah. That's all they need to know. Hey, man, whatever this is, I don't like it. Nah, this ain't no. No, this ain't this. No, this wasn't my idea if I had one.
In the aftermath, the false heart was being transported on a ship that ended up crashing, leaving it at the bottom of the Gulf. It was designated SCP-882, meaning that, just like SCP-2399, this proposal implies that the actual document for 882 has been falsified. The final addendum is from an interview with the chain-haired lady,
what's new with that, y'all?
who claimed to be a part of a previously unknown sect of the church and agreed to talk to the Foundation. She says that the GOC did not kill the broken god, as they claim, but instead just a piece of it, the way a camshaft is a piece of a car. She says that instead, God is everything, from the biggest star to the smallest particle, meshing together as one cosmic machine. She admits that, at one point, the machine aspect was likely just a metaphor, but the idea grew more powerful over time, taking shape into something more real. She can't answer most of the Foundation's questions about the broken god, but she does say that regardless of what the broken god once was, it must remain that way, broken. She also says that the broken god knows that it must remain broken, and thus it was the one that allowed itself to be destroyed by SCP-2399.
See? Yeah. Okay.
She goes on to say that SCP-2399 was already damaged before destroying the entity, as this has all happened before. She says that eventually, the monster will win, consuming 2399 and using its power to consume everything. She suggests that perhaps this too has happened before, and the universe has been destroyed and remade by the broken god in the past. But this time, there may be some outside forces mingling with it, such as the Factory, or the Davites, or the Fifthus, or some reality benders. She ends by suggesting that the Foundation continue to work with the Church of the Broken God to prevent such occurrences from happening in the future, finishing with, "Apart we are broken, but united we are God."
Okay, Academates. Well, that concludes the video. I don't know, man. I think that yeah. I mean, okay. For one, all right. Let me say this: it's getting serious. Definitely getting serious, and we're definitely like the story is getting intense. Because I'm thinking, it's got me thinking, but I don't really want to throw anything out there just yet until we get a little further. I mean, we're only in part 2, so you know what I'm saying. I think I can hold on to it a little bit longer, you know, just to make sure that what I'm thinking is what I'm thinking. But I'm looking for a couple other things to be called out, and then I'll be able to make a pretty good observation on that. But yeah, man, y'all let me know what y'all think about it in the comment section, though. You know what I'm saying? I'm enjoying it. I'm liking it. You know what I'm saying? It looks to be busting right now. They doing all the time. I don't listen, man. Listen, y'all need to stop making artificial stuff. Now that's the key point right here. Don't artificial hearts, artificial you know what I'm saying? The synthetics, nah, bro. No. Some stuff is just nah. The original, the indigenous, the organic, sometimes that's just what you need. You don't need nothing else. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's good right there with the original. No changes, no alterations. If it's broke, let it stay broke. Cause I'm trying to tell you, man, it sounds like he gonna get on some type of smoke that he don't even want. He don't even want his own smoke, y'all. You know, and you know that's the issue. You know that's the issue when you don't even want your own smoke. You feel me? Like you don't want your own smoke? Come on, bro. Yeah, you coming with something. Alright, so y'all keep y'all head on the swivel out there. Don't forget to keep yourself spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally protected. Do not forget to get, you know what I'm saying, keep yourself keep your CT on at all times. Do not forget that it's a war for your mind, of course. What else we got for you? You know what I'm saying? Go read a book. You know what I mean? Chill out. Those that's in the snow, if you ain't got to go, sit your ass down. You know what I'm saying? I seen some stuff yesterday that was it was ugly. It was ugly. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Y'all be careful out there, man. And we'll be back with part 3. You know what I'm saying? Peace.